Hello and welcome to Unspooled. I'm your host, Isaac Coate. Today doing my movie review roundup for the second half of July of 2018. A bit late on, but better late than never, right? And also doing a mini haul for the first week-ish, week and a half or so of August. So we'll start with the haul because that's the less interesting part. And that's the less movie-related part, which is what we're here for. So we'll start with this nice big stack of comics. All of these are from the library, so because as a rule I don't buy comics unless they're minorly cheap, which is really the rule with mostly everything. So these are all from the library that I got on my last trip. So this is Batman, Death of the Family, which is the third volume in Scott Snyder's New 52 run on Batman. Getting ready to start this one. Finished volume 2 a while back. Was quite enjoying this Batman run so far from Scott Snyder, so interested to see where that goes. This is the first Joker story he wrote. The first 2 volumes were the Quarter Owls stuff, which was pretty fascinating, honestly. Then we got, because I thought I should check it out here, I picked up Flashpoint to check out. This is the event that led into the New 52, I believe. So interested to see what they did with that. Then from Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, picked up Green Lantern Rebirth, which was his first book of it. And then the Sinestro Corps War, Volume 1 and 2. So here I'm going to check out some of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run. And these obviously lead into Blackest Night, which my library didn't have. So I'll have to see if someone's checked it out or if they don't even own it or what's going on with that. Then picked up both volumes 1 and 2 of Batman Hush. This is volume 1. This is 2. So interested to read that one. Then another story I thought I should definitely check out. That is Infinite Crisis. Then Batman Arkham Asylum, Grant Morrison's story about Arkham. Batman The Long Halloween. And the last one I got out. Now, I'm not a huge Marvel Comics reader at all, but for a project that we might be launching over on the Glide later this year, we're still kind of figuring it out. I thought I should brush up on my Marvel, so this is X-Men Days of Future Past. So thought I should check out some more Marvel stuff so I kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to Marvel a little bit more than I currently do, which is not much outside of the movie stuff. Then the actual movies that you're here for. So got 11 here. My local retro gaming store actually has a pretty robust movie section to the point where, right, for the last month roughly, they've been running every DVD is $2 except for the box set. So every normal DVD is $2. Box sets and Blu-rays are buy one, get one half off right now. So of course, I just stick to the DVDs. I picked up 11 because I needed, I needed an extra one to round up to 15 for the day. So picked out, so this is one like I didn't really want, but I was like, fuck it, why not, basically. RoboCop 2, I own 1 and 3 in the remake, so okay, might as well pick up 2 then for $2. So picked up RoboCop 2. Then Rage Against the Machine Live. Thought that would be a good concert film experience for a night. Rent. Filmed live on Broadway, so definitely wanted that one. After the travesty that was the actual movie version. So then the rest are more normal movies, not that kind of stuff. So King Kong Escapes. So this is a King Kong film produced by Toho, who make the Godzilla movies, the Japanese ones, the good ones. So this was their King Kong movie, which is basically King Kong fights Mecha King Kong. It's basically the movie. It's the Mecha Godzilla plot, but with King Kong instead, basically. And before Mecha Godzilla, I believe this was 70-something. It doesn't have a year on here. This was in the 70s, I believe. So this is from Inashiro Honda, who did most of the best Godzilla features. So this should be a fun one. Then to add to the Scorsese collection, picked up a copy of Mean Streets, which I liked this cover art for it too. I liked the cover on this one quite a bit too. So very excited for that to add to the Scorsese collection. We'll save that. Then for To Be or Not to Be, a Mel Brooks film. So very excited for that. Then this is a funny story. So before I started doing these haul videos, there's my local library, not the one I go to for this, a different one. So not my local one, but another one that's relatively close, but not close enough for me to actually go there ever, except for this, has a special sale all the time for $5 a year, 6 a year, sorry. Right, yeah, 6 a year, so every other month, where they sell CDs that the library doesn't want anymore, CDs pulled out of circulation, movies, shitloads of books. So I pick up a lot of movies and a lot of CDs there, because they're, the DVDs are $2 a piece and the CDs are $1 and books are $1 or $2 depending, paper or hardback. So one time, a couple sales ago now, they had the box set of the complete Nightmare on Elm Street film collection. But it was missing one of the movies. But I bought it anyway because it's like, well, let's see, because they do $2 a disc up to like $5 or up to 5 discs. So it was like $10. So I was like, okay, $10 for this and it's missing one. Okay, that's fine. And the one I was missing, picked up Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors for $2. I was happy to do that to finish off Nightmare on Elm Street. Now this next movie is one I wasn't familiar with. I'd heard a lot of people talk about, but I wasn't really familiar with, but I saw it and I was like, okay, sure, I'll check it out for $2. It is Paprika, which is an animated film. So very interested to see this anime film here, to see, what's going on with this. I've heard a lot of good things about it. And now the last 3 films picked up. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. Didn't have it, so had to grab that. And then to add to the DC animated film collection, 2 I'd already seen and did not watch a while back now, so I won't be talking about them in the actual reviews this episode. Justice League Doom and the Flashpoint Paradox. So picked up both of those for $2 a piece. Was very happy with that. Let's turn these so you're not staring at the spine. We'll give you pages so it's much less interesting to look at. All right. If you couldn't tell, trying out new lighting. We'll see if this looks less awful than some of my other lighting choices have been. So, second half of July, I watched a few, obviously. 17 items total, 14 movies, 3 TV seasons that I watched in the second half of July. Most of the movies were from this year. Looks like 3 of them weren't. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 of them were not from this year. So sounds like 9 movies from this year. So working my way up towards 100 for the year. That was my goal coming in, was for the first year ever to finally get in 100 movies from the year within the year. Last year was the best I had done forever, since this last year was the first year I fully committed myself to film criticism. And I kind of had to a little bit, but it was the first year I fully committed myself to it. It stopped being mostly a side hobby last year. So last year was the best year for me in terms of number of movies from the year. Within the year, getting to watch, I got around 50-ish, which was insanely high for me. I mean, that's nearly 1 a week, which is pretty high volume for your average movie-going consumer. To watch 1 movie a week, that's pretty high, I think, for most people. This year, I know I still have, I've got, I think, 4 more to add to my list, because I just watched them the last couple days and haven't updated my my big spreadsheet, my archive list. But so currently I have 82, so I'll have 86 for the year. Actual fiction films, and then I have 3 or 4 documentaries as well. So I've got. So I mean, I'm nearly at 90. I'll hit 90 tonight. After I'm done with this, I'm gonna go watch. Some movie. I'm gonna go watch Revenge. Yeah, Revenge is the one that I'm gonna go watch after this. So without any further ado, what did I watch in the second half of July? Well, let us start with a film from 2006, an anime film. 5 centimeters per second. In the last, oh shit, I forgot one actually on here that I know I watched, because I think I have a Twitter post about it, so we'll get to that in advance. So I better actually scroll through the Twitter account to make sure that I'm doing everything. So let's see. Yeah, I forgot one. July 14th. Well, I didn't talk about it in the last one, so I got to talk about it here. I don't know how I messed this up, but I did. So let us actually start with another anime picture, but from 2014, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. So after I finished all the DC animated movies that my library had, I finished that up this last half finally. In the last half of July, I decided I'm going to start trying to do, I was like, okay, what do I want my next challenge to be? Like, let's do Studio Ghibli. Let's watch some more Studio Ghibli stuff. So, Tale of Princess Kaguya, it was okay. Honestly, it's a gorgeous movie. Beautiful to look at, but I didn't think it was terribly engaging on a story level, which that's what I want out of Ghibli beyond beautiful visuals. You know, those are the two things Ghibli's always incredible at, is beautiful visuals, beautiful emotionally moving stories. This one I did not think was very, moving on a story level. I thought it was fine. I thought it was a pretty standard fairy tale princess type thing, but I didn't think it was anything special from a story perspective. It is gorgeous, though. It's beautiful to look at. I thought it was a bit long, too. It's over 2 hours, which I thought was way too long for this kind of a movie. But I did like it, but I didn't think it was anything special, unlike, most Ghibli stuff. So now, from 2006, this was not a Studio Ghibli film, but I watched it anyway because it sounded interesting. 5 centimeters per second from 2006. So this is another beautifully animated, beautiful anime film about 3 interconnected love stories from different times in one man's life. It's very, very moving, very visually impressive, and a truly terrific animated film. I loved it a lot. Gorgeous stuff here, gorgeous story, gorgeous visuals. Loved it quite a lot. Highly recommend. 5 centimeters per second. So next, a TV series. I watched the first season of The Sinner. Rewatched it actually, but first watch since starting to do this show. It was on Netflix, and season 2 was getting ready to start. So I was like, yep, I'm going to rewatch season 1, keep myself refreshed on what's going on, even though I don't really think season 1's going to have a giant connection with 2. But nonetheless, so if you haven't seen The Sinner, be warned, I'm going to spoil mostly the entire show, the entire first season for you right now. So if you're interested in watching The Sinner and you have not seen it before, please turn off the video or mute it for about the next 3 to 4 minutes, probably. So The Sinner follows Jessica Biel and her husband and son. So in the first episode, it starts off, you think it's going to they play it, and it seems like that it's going to be this kind of more artistically shot and artistically done family drama where, it's just going to be, okay, they have to navigate parental life and shit, that kind of stuff. And it puts up that facade for, I'd say, at least a good 20, 25 minutes of that first episode. You're like, okay, this is just that. It's very artistic and very abstract artistically for that, but that's what this is going for. Okay, fine, cool. And then Jessica Biel straight up stabs a motherfucker. Like, she just murders a dude, and we got to figure out why then. That's the rest of the season. And I remember the first time I saw the episode, very first time, first aired, I didn't know what I was getting into, so I just started, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I had seen the preview, the commercials, and I'm like, okay, this looks interesting. I'll check it out. And And I'm like, oh, okay, artistic family drama. Okay, cool. And then she stabs it. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck am I watching now? And it was a stunning turn midway through the first episode on first watch. It was a stunning turn. It was. And then we had to figure out, why did she murder this motherfucker? What caused her to kill this guy? And it's a fascinating murder mystery, deep and enthralling, that is truly marvelous how it's all weaved together and is really fucked up too. And it does hold together very well in a rewatch, I felt. And it's damn good, and I'm excited to watch season 2, which has started. I haven't recorded. I'm weird, so the way I like to do it, unless I'm being paid to write about television, which is not the case right now, I like to, unless it's Game of Thrones, I record the whole season, and then I watch the whole season back to back. I do my damnedest to avoid spoilers, and I just watch the whole season at a time. I DVR the whole season, and then watch the whole season through when it's something I really like. So that's what I'm trying to do at the center right now. So I've got 2 episodes recorded, I think, right now. So I'm trying to hold off, but I am very excited to see that one, to check that season 2 out. Up next from this year, Blockers. Now, this was surprising to me. I was expecting, a, stupid sex comedy, kind of, like an Animal House, that kind of shit. That's what I was expecting Blockers to be, was, a standard and, to me, very boring and unfunny teen sex comedy. And that's not what I got. It was refreshing and delightful. It is still a teen sex comedy, but it's a very different ilk. It's strung from a very different cloth of fabric. It's weaved together from a very different bolt of fabric than your normal sex comedies are. This one takes a very sex-positive approach, which I appreciated and I found to be delightfully refreshing and very different than, the kind of stuff I've seen from this genre before. And it asks us to reassess and rethink our kind of obsession and the value that we as a society place on virginity, particularly female virginity and virginal qualities, as well as the loss of virginity. And it asks us to reassess and reevaluate those things. With a comedic heart, it asks us to do these things. And also to contemplate and openly question and talk about a parent's role in their child's sex life, mostly in the beginning of their child's sex life, and kind of what role is appropriate or what level of involvement is appropriate for a parent to have in the starting phases of their child's sex life. And I found it to be very interesting, very fascinating on an ideological level, and also a good film on its own merits. Very funny. There's some insanely funny sequences in this movie that is honestly the funniest stuff I've seen, intentionally funny stuff I've seen this year so far. So I loved blockers, and I highly recommend it, which is something I never thought I would say when I was seeing the commercials and the trailers for this. But it is fucking incredible, guys. Blockers is low-key awesome. Up next, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Good fucking God, what a mess this movie is. So, preface, I have not seen the original 3 Jurassic Park movies. I watched half of Jurassic World, turned it off because I fucking hated it. So that's where I stood on Jurassic as a franchise. So I'm basically going in blind to this movie. The only thing I'd heard, the only reason I went was so many of my other movie people that I know and talk to told me that this Jurassic World movie was so awful, so dumb, and so absurd that it has to be seen to be believed how atrocious it is. And I don't fully agree. It is not good. It is not a good movie. I wouldn't say it is an awful movie. I'll put it that way. It is awful, but it's a entertaining kind of awful. Think of like Rampage or oh God, fucking. I mean, most of Godzilla movies post 1990 are this way. Like they're adorably and entertainingly awful movies. And this is right in line with that kind of shit. It's insanely stupid. Now, I must say, here's the bad things about this Jurassic World movie. Way too goddamn long. Way too long. Chris Pratt is, I mean, you know what you're getting. It's Chris Pratt. You know what you're getting out of him. And some people like him. I'm not one of those people, but he works. But you're not getting anything that you don't expect out of Chris Pratt at this point. So the other bad things about it. The script. Now, this is a Colin Trevorrow script. So I will say this. The script is awful, but by Colin Trevorrow standards, it's one of his better scripts. I'll give him that. It's a piece of shit, but it's one of his better scripts, I think. Which is, saying something, but it's Colin Trevorrow. What the fuck do you expect? So that, what else was just flat out bad and wasn't entertainingly bad? I mean, the plot makes no sense, but, whatever. The villain plan is, I said Rampage had one of the dumbest villain plans I've seen in a film in a long time. This was right up there with it. This was insanely stupid as a villain plan. Just insanely dumb, honestly. I really don't know what the hell Trevor was thinking, but it's a terrible, terrible villain plan. There's a third act twist, which is that the young girl, this granddaughter of some old guy, I guess, who was in the first movie. Maybe I don't know. I'm guessing that's who that was supposed to be. is that his granddaughter is a genetically engineered clone or some shit, which was just a baffling turn. Oh God. What else did I hate about Jurassic World? That was about it. I will also say this had nothing to do with the actual movie, but the theater was definitely one of the worst theater experiences I've had this year, which, you know, whatever, but I didn't like that, obviously, but the movie had nothing to do with that. That was it. That was all the stuff I hated. Now, Jurassic World, as I've said, not a good movie, but very entertainingly bad. I think, maybe it's in the running for best comedy of the year. It's fucking hilarious. All of it's unintentional, but it is so hilarious. There's a sequence where there's a dinosaur, obviously, that has been genetically engineered to do some shit, to be the ultimate killing weapon or some goddamn shit. I know that's the villain plan, is that they're gonna train dinosaurs to be like Wolverine, basically, to become killing machine. It's the Weapon X program, but with dinosaur clones. That's literally what it is. But it's goddamn dinosaurs, so it doesn't make any fucking sense, unlike actual Weapon X does. So there's a dinosaur that's supposed to be like super smart or something, I guess. And it pretends to be unconscious so that it can eat a motherfucker. It opens a window, properly opens a window, which was so hilarious. And then my favorite thing that I was dying in the theater at, the dino was climbing up a ladder properly, the way a human climbs the ladder. That's how it was climbing up the ladder. It was goddamn hilarious. So the movie is like 2.5 hours or so. Way too long. Way too long. But it's in two halves. So half of it is they go back to the island from the first Jurassic World, I guess, to do something. I don't fucking remember. That hour is awful. Skip that hour. The first hour, don't bother. It's so awful. Then the next hour, when they get on in like this they get in this giant fucking mansion. And it basically becomes a haunted house movie, but with a giant fucking dinosaur. But it's a haunted house movie. It is wonderful. That hour is some of the funniest shit I've seen all year. Just absolutely hilarious. So idiotic, so stupid, but so entertaining and hilarious. I recommend the second hour of this Jurassic World movie. I don't recommend the first hour. That second hour is some of the funniest stuff I've seen all year. It was hilarious. Up next, Valentina's Wedding. This is a Spanish film. That's not its Spanish title. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish beyond very, very remedial, so I apologize. But Valentina's Wedding is the English title. And this was okay. This was from this year as well. I don't really recommend Valentina's Wedding. It's a pretty standard rom-com, but the conceit of it is that it's two super rich people. So personally, I didn't find it interesting nor relatable in any way, so I didn't really like it, but it's okay. if you're a big fan of rom-coms, it's a decent rom-com, but it's just nothing I personally liked all that much. So I don't really recommend Valentina's Wedding, but I know some of you who really love rom-coms would like it, but it's just not my kind of thing, really. Deep Blue Sea 2 is up next. This is also from this year. This was another goddamn shark movie. I did not like it. It has some fun moments that are very stupid, very idiotic, but very fun moments. But the problem is those moments are too far and few, too far away from each other, and too few of those moments to truly be a good or rewarding B-movie experience. It's okay, but it's definitely nothing I ever want to see again, and I don't recommend Deep Blue Sea 2. Up next, from 2010, the animated film All-Star Superman. So, at the time I watched this, I had not read the comic version of it. I since have. And I must say, I think the movie version here is better than the comic myself. I loved both, but I think I preferred this movie version of it. The premise of this is, the All-Star line itself, at least initially before Frank Miller fucked it up with the second installment of it, was that the All-Star series was supposed to be DC would get all-star teams together to create iconic stories that are basically like one-story distillations of the character. Like, if you had to get across everything that makes this character great, do that in one story. What does that look like? That was kind of the conceit of it. And Grant Morrison did this incredible story with All-Star Superman. And then Frank Miller fucked it up with Batman, but, whatever. The premise of All-Star Superman is that Lex Luthor. So there's this group of scientists led by Dr. Quintum, who runs like some super science research lab, right? And they're going to explore the sun to see like kind of what the sun's made of or something. I forget exactly what now. And Superman's there, to make sure that they don't, fucking die in the sun, right? In case anything goes wrong. And Lex Luthor has like engineered this bioweapon that is set to go off at a certain time to, fuck up the whole mission and kill everyone and kill Superman, most importantly, of course. And it kind of works because Lex Luthor, his plan was to get Superman to go into the sun to the point where, Superman draws all his power from the yellow sun, from yellow sunlight. So Lex Luthor's plan was, if we overcharge his cells with the radiation, it'll poison him and Superman will slowly die of overexposure to sunlight radiation. And it works. So Superman is dying, and he's going to die from being overcharged with sun radiation. And that's the premise, is that Superman's dying, and these are his last, months alive, and he has to figure out kind of what to do and how to, make sure the world's not going to be completely fucked when he's dead. And it's a fascinating tale that I thoroughly enjoyed. I don't want to spoil it for you because it's just so incredible to me. And it really distilled and explores the true meaning of the character and his ultimate goals as well. And I just found it to be a fascinating story. I thoroughly loved All-Star Superman. Highly recommend the movie. I do recommend the comic if you're into comics. It's very good, but I think the movie's personally better because they change some stuff at the end that I found more interesting than the way it plays out in the comic, but the comic is still fucking wonderful. But I do think the movie was more fascinating. Up next, Futurama. So I watched the second half of season 7, which is volume 8 of the DVD releases. Because over on the Glide right now, we're doing our Billboard Hot 100 #1 hit rankings or something, whatever the fuck. We're doing that. So the second half of July and the first, little bit of August, I had to be listening to like 1,000 goddamn songs and rating them all and stuff. So whenever I'm doing, when I was doing that, whenever I'm doing work of any kind, I like to have, something on in the background, on TV on the background that usually it's a television show that I've seen a lot of, and I know that if I put it on, I'm not going to focus on, but if I need a break, I can, save my work and watch, 10 minutes of this episode and then get back to work, that's kind of like that. So it's usually stuff I've seen a ton. So like Futurama or South Park or Golden Girls here or SpongeBob, which I did that. We'll talk about that later. Frasier sometimes I'll put on. I Love Lucy I'll put on too if I need, Game of Thrones I don't because I've never tried it, but I have a strong feeling that if I were to, that I would be that I'd focus too much. That I'd like say, and fuck work, I'm gonna watch Thrones here and just watch Thrones unless I put on like an awful episode over and over, which would not be a good idea, but which would not be fun. But I guess I could do that, but I'm not gonna try that. So anyway, Futurama, second half of season 7. So this is the final 13 episodes, and yeah, it's wonderful, a very fitting end to the series. Very funny still, filled with very touching and poignant emotional moments that lead to one of my probably my favorite series finale so far that I've ever seen. Just an incredible series finale here. So highly recommend all of Futurama, but yeah, this second half of season 7 is fucking incredible. Next movie, Entanglement from this year. This is a very weird premise that I did like, that is somewhat interesting. So it's about this guy who learns that his parents were going to adopt a girl before they had him, and he, through random fuckery, finds this girl, and he falls in love with her. And it's kind of an interesting premise, admittedly, but I didn't think that it was executed very well, nor that it was. I thought the actors kind of sucked, but it was okay. It's an interesting premise, but I didn't really care for it, honestly. CHAPPAQUIDDICK from this year. So it's okay. It's somewhat interesting, a government cover-up about a fucking murder, basically. So it's kind of interesting, but I honestly didn't know what the point was. Like, usually when you're doing these kind of like historical political dramas like this, there's some kind of point to them, given the environment that they're being produced in. So like this one, it's like, okay, so it's 2018, so this was being shot in late 2017 probably, okay. So what's their point about the current political climate and cover-ups? Okay, well, I know one obvious thing they could be saying, but there's no real evidence for that in this movie. So, you know, it's a lot of that kind of shit. And CHAPPAQUIDDIck, I didn't think did that very well. You know, if you just take it on its face value as a movie about an event, it's good, as good as that. But if I'm watching this kind of a political drama, I expect there to be some kind of relevant point being made. Whether or not I agree with said point is a different you know, thing to discuss. But I expect there to at least be a political point to you know, the current day when you're making this kind of movie, and I couldn't figure out if there was one, and if so, what it was here with CHAPPAQUIDDIck. So it's okay. I do recommend it, but it's nothing special to me. Up next, Sorry to Bother You from this year. This was fucking incredible. I loved this. I know a lot of mostly white people are you know, calling this the Get Out of this year. And I understand why they're doing it. You know, I honestly sort of agree too, because it is on one level a you know, a giant metaphor about the way black folk are treated by black folk, and every racial minority in general are treated by the white majority in the exploitative you know, forms that takes on, and then has a stunning twist into into horror territory in the third act. You know, this and Get Out have both movies have that kind of that general structure to them, but beyond that very general structure, there's not really much of like a connective tissue between the two, other than great race relations movies made by black folk. That's literally the only thing they have in common beyond a kind of base structure, so not a ton. But Sorry to Bother You is very fascinating on, you know, on an ideological level, because not only is it about, you know, about all the race stuff and the way black folk in particular are treated. Not only is it about that, and you know, the way black folk have to present themselves to white people and all this kind of stuff. Not only is it that, it also has a very interesting and I thought wonderfully executed message about capitalism running throughout it, and kind of the inherent uselessness of capitalistic societies, which I found very fascinating. And then there's also this whole thing about art, which is basically, I'm gonna borrow here from Todd in the Shadows. I know he tweeted it. I don't remember his exact phrasing, but he phrased it, I think, as that Sorry to Bother You states kind of that like art is nothing but useless masturbatory bullshit, basically. Something along those lines is what Todd said. And I do agree that that's in here. And I found that fascinating, that kind of, you know, statement about art in a piece of art, that art is just useless masturbatory bullshit. You know, and I think, you know, the film takes more of kind of just a performance art is useless bullshit type of a thing, which, you know, I guess has some value to it as a message. But I found this that I loved. Sorry to bother you. I found it fascinating, just wonderful. I loved it. So SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1, I watched in the background while doing work for my Billboard list. So SpongeBob Season 1 still holds up after 20 plus years, you know. Still funny, very cleverly written, and nicely animated. Just, you know, great stuff. Upstream Color from 2013. Oh, there we go. Jesus. Okay. Upstream Color from 2013 is, so this is a Shane Carruth film, who also did Primer. Those Upstream Color and Primer are his 2 movies that he has made. Both are, if you think David Lynch is hard to figure out, check out one of Shane Carruth's movies and you will be left goddamn speechless. David Lynch looks like fucking children's movies compared to Shane Carruth. So Upstream Color is, let's see here. The simplest way I can explain the plot of Upstream Color. So people figure out somehow through like drug that is distributed through little maggots that you ingest, that makes the person that takes ingests the maggots, makes them basically allows whoever wants to be able to mind control them and make them do their bidding. Okay. And then as some dude has a way of curing this infliction where he plays some sort of weird like sloshing sound, super loud, and it attracts anyone that has fallen victim to this drug. It attracts them to the sound. It's a sound that attracts people, that attracts these people to it. And he then extracts the maggots, and also like gives people ovarian cancer at the same time, maybe the maggots out of their pussies, I don't know, and then puts the that must have been the ovary. Oh God, okay, I just figured that part out. Okay, so he transfers like human ovaries into a pig, which has all the maggots in it, and then the pig kind of lives on somehow. I don't fucking know, but it's something like that. And then that pig gives birth to little piglets that are then killed to start the process over again. Okay. But on the other level, on the other side of it, then the woman who is, at the core of this movie, gets fucked up by these worms. Okay. She has to rebuild her life. She meets a man, falls in love with him, and it turns out that he was also fucked up by these worms as well at one point in time. And they unravel together kind of what's going on in a very, very weird fashion that basically involves slam poetry readings at the local YMCA pool house. And that's the movie, basically. So that's the basic premise. This is a very weird movie. I fucking loved it. It's so bizarre, so fascinating, so symbolically narrative driven that I think it's an incredible marvel of filmmaking. I loved Upstream Color, but it is a film that you don't watch. It's a film you mostly sit there and go, what the fuck, for the whole movie the first time, and then after that you're like, oh, okay, I see. So okay. It's one of those. It's David Lynch on fucking cocaine. It's nuts, but I loved it. Last three movies. Pokemon I Choose You from last year. I liked this. I know this didn't get great reviews from people, and not a lot of people liked it, apparently. I thought it was okay. Is it as good as other Pokemon films? No, not at all. But I thought it was okay. The animation is very nice. It is more so of the it's kind of the origin, it's a Pokemon origin story of how Ash and Pikachu meet, basically. It's that story again, but done differently. And something, because I don't really keep up with Pokemon anymore beyond the games a little bit. Something I didn't know, apparently now, like, all Pokemon from all regions just are all in the same area now. Because, like, you start with Pikachu, and then there's, like, people from the Diamond and Pearl, because, like, Lucario's in here, and Piplup, which are, Diamond and Pearl, Bulbasaur, and Charmander. Squirtle are here from Kanto, and Ho-Oh is the main driving plot crux, who's from fucking Johto region, and so I didn't know that, but that's apparently the case, which is fine. That's cool. So it's okay. It's nothing special like some of the early Pokemon movies, like the first one with Mewtwo. Oh God, it's a fucking great one. But this one's a dark moment, which was shocking to me. But it's cool. I liked it. It does work on an emotional level too. It is a moving film at a certain point, and I did quite enjoy it, but it's nothing special. But I did quite enjoy this Pokemon movie. Up next, The Death of Stalin. From this year, Steve Buscemi is on a goddamn roll this year. This, Lean on Pete. He was in something else that I don't remember the name of off the top of my head right now, but he's on a roll this year. Death of Stalin it's okay. It has some problems for me. This is from, I believe, Armando Iannucci. That's how you pronounce his name. The Veep guy, among other things, but mostly the Veep guy. This is, he directed this, and it is, as you would expect then from Veep, it's a political satire, set in the, in the last days of Stalin's life, and then his death, and what are his, I guess, cronies doing, It is interesting, kind of. It has some funny moments. That was my biggest issue with this, is that it's not kind of like start to finish hilarious like Veep is. But it has some funny moments, and it does have an interesting story. But I didn't think Death of Stalin was anything incredible, but it's definitely worth a viewing. And the last film we're going to talk about tonight, Sherlock Gnomes. From this year, this is about fucking garden. Apparently there was a movie from, yes, a few years ago called Romeo and Juliet, and apparently this is a sequel to it. I don't know. I'd never heard of nor seen that movie, so from what I could tell, there was nothing really that you need to see in that to get this movie. Surprisingly, Sherlock Gnomes was not awful. I thought it was going to be fucking terrible, but it's actually decent. It's not great, don't get me wrong. It's a decent movie. You know, it's one of the better pure children's movies of the year. I'll give it that. It's still not something I would like actively go, oh yeah, I should show this to my child, but it's okay. It's got a decent mystery, some decent comedic moments, some, you know, some nice stuff in there. It's never obnoxious or, you know, annoying or anything like that. Like, oh, what was that fucking one from a couple months ago? Peter Rabbit. Oh, Jesus Christ. There's nothing like that. But Sherlock Gnomes is okay. I would recommend for a family viewing if you're really desperate and have run out of everything else. Sherlock Gnomes, you know, it won't pain you to sit through like some other, you know, like the Emoji Movie or something. It's not, you won't be in pain sitting through it. You know, as an adult, you won't be in pain watching it. It's not that kind of kids movie, thank God, but it's not a great movie. You know, it's an okay kids movie, but it's not a good movie in its own merits. You know, this is not, you know, again, I can't say this enough. If you are in need of children's movies, a movie for your children, and you have not shown them or watched with them yet, get Paddington and Paddington 2. I cannot recommend those two enough. Now, be warned, Paddington 2 might result in a big cry. At the end, it did, you know, Paddington 2 moved me to tears with its ending. So be warned of that, but Paddington 1 is so good. Paddington 2 is even better. So, you know, if you're in need of a children's movie, check those out if you haven't already. But Sherlock Gnomes is a fine, like, third-tier children's movie option. It's not bad, but it's not a good movie on its own. It's not just a good movie in general. It is a good kids movie, but it's not a good movie in general, if I haven't made that point clear after saying it 15 fucking times. So that is everything. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more great content like this. And until that next episode, goodbye.